Join me now live is former ambassador to the African Union, Cindy Courville. We heard there being called a major milestone. In your opinion, how significant is this signing?
Well, Carl, thank you for having me on. I think it's important that this is an ongoing process. And I think that Qatar's role in this, starting back in July, the dialogue with the African Union, and most importantly, with the president of the DRC, Tshisekedi, and President Kagame of Rwanda. Those two individuals have to be at the table. I welcome the fact that the U.S. was in this process, and this has been ongoing. When I was at the National Security Council from 2004 to 2006, we were engaged with dialogue. And also in my role at the African Union. Dialogue is important. The question is, can you get the parties to the table, and what can they agree on? This is an ongoing situation, and unfortunately, too many lives have been lost.
Yeah, it's ongoing. You mentioned in July, the two sides signed a declaration also in Doha. What's the difference here? How much further does this signing take things from what we saw back in July?
Well, I'm going to be cautiously optimistic based on what I'm hearing, and this is all still new coming out. The parties have agreed to some form of ceasefire. The question, who will enforce this? What's the criteria? What is each party gaining from it? So again, I'm going to remain cautiously optimistic, but also realistic that unless, in this case, the DRC with Tshisekedi, what is he willing to give up? What is Kagame willing to give up equally? And what does this mean to the people on the ground whose daily lives are being affected? So is there going to be a UN peacekeeping mission? Problematic at the time. The U.S. role has been quite limited at the UN. I think it's important that the French are at the table as well. So if those parties are there, I'm going to believe this may be a window, maybe a small window, but as long as talks are ongoing, there is a chance to move forward.
What role do you think the U.S. played in brokering this deal? We know it's been involved, and I think it's also interesting to ask, what role will the U.S. have going forward as the really difficult task turns into implementing these agreements?
Oh, excellent question. I think the fact that we have an envoy there is a very good start. The question for me is, what is the political will of the President of the United States to support this? Is the United States willing to become a guarantor on this agreement? Does it go beyond the oil? Does it go beyond the mineral resources are there? And at this particular stage, I am concerned with a government that has been shut down. Who's sitting at State Department to support this? It would be great if we could see the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, there. I think it has to be pushed up to a higher level than the envoy at this time. And I think the Secretary would have to play a critical role.
Ambassador, can you give us a sense of where things stand right now in the region there? It doesn't sound as if the fighting is actually stopped.
Well, I would agree with you. There may be a lull in the situation in certain sectors, but there are not enough guarantees coming from, let's say, the United States in particular. I will say France because they have literally been in the room. And the African Union is a critical partner, but will need resources to support any kind of peacekeeping mission, even if it's an African Union peacekeeping situation. In the case of Somalia, when I was in Ethiopia 2006 to 2008, the United States heavily funded the support of an African peacekeeping mission. If the U.S. is willing to put those kinds of resources on the table, then I think we have a much better chance.
Cindy Courville, always great to get your thoughts, the former U.S. ambassador to the African Union. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.